Despite our various attempts, life always reminds us that nothing lasts forever, even architectural structures that serve as reminders of certain places or historical periods. From the largest bridge brought down to the tallest skyscraper ever to fall on continents, these demolitions sent dust and other debris into the skies. Here are the most incredible demolished buildings that you shouldn't miss. The demolition of Ocean Tower. Last 2015, the locals of South Padre saw the spectacular collapse of a 31-story luxury high-rise into a 4-story tall pile of concrete, dust, and rebar, an event that would live in infamy among the residents. The demolition of Ocean Tower, the highest reinforced concrete skyscraper to ever implode, set a record for destruction in less than 15 seconds. What was intended to be a $2 million per unit oceanfront tower had a sturdy architectural style, making its downfall an engineering achievement. It required months of preparation, over a ton of explosives, and 2.5 miles of detonating cord. The structure was never occupied. It had been under construction for over 2 years since it started to sink and bend. More than 100 feet below the earth, pier supports in the shaky clay started to buckle, placing strain on the beams and columns. Spalling, breaking, and cracking were all present. There was eventually tilting. In 2008, the project came to an end. By then, the company had sold 100 condos out of more than 15. A return of deposits was demanded. The structure had been reduced to its bare bones as of February 25, 2022. Bathtubs, floors, windows, and other elements had been sold to the highest bidder. Construction subcontractors Robba Kistner Consultants Inc. of San Antonio and Datum Engineering Inc. of Austin were the targets of a $125 million lawsuit. The businesses claim they can demonstrate that the failure was not their responsibility. Ocean Tower had become a towering eyesore when the developer decided to tear it down. We are down to 15 buildings in Kunming. Several high-rise structures have sat incomplete for 7 years in a Chinese metropolis, and to demolish them took 45 seconds. A fantastic video from the demolition last August 2021 shows 14 buildings collapsing in planned demolition in Kunming, a city in China's southwest. According to local media, the explosion did not destroy the 15th high-rise. It was demolished 3 days later. These unfinished structures result from China's rapid urban growth strategy, which has been criticized for creating ghost cities in some areas of the nation. To spur economic development, local governments sold the property. They started large-scale infrastructure projects, while developers often paid a significant debt to profit from ever-growing house prices. Later on, some of the empty communities started to fill up. Still, in other instances, the newly developed, glittering urban areas had difficulty finding residents or getting funds to complete development projects. Sunshine City 2, the development in Kunming, has been under construction since 2011. The developer quickly ran out of money and was bought out by another business. The residential construction project was stopped in 2013. Since then, the high-rises have been empty. Another business bought the developer of the housing project and its $3.6 million debt in November 2020. The developer submitted a request to destroy the incomplete structures so that new lower-rise apartment buildings could be built in their place, citing the building's poor condition. After the explosion, the whole neighborhood was covered in dust. Later, water was fired into the air to capture the dust. According to Kunming Daily, 4.6 metric tons of explosives had to be set at around 85,000 detonation locations on the structures to demolish them on August 27. According to the report, each home got roughly $23 in compensation, and more than 5,300 inhabitants had to be relocated to complete the project. Next is AFE Tower in Germany. Johann Wolfgang Goethe University utilized the 116-meter-tall high-rise known as the AFE Tower. There were 165,000 cubic meters of an enclosed area in the 116-meter-high reinforced concrete structure. 32 upper levels and 2 basements were present. The structure was supported by a square floor slab of reinforced concrete with a thickness of 3.6 meters and an edge length of 42.5 meters. The top standard levels featured square floor layouts with an edge length of 33.4 meters and a height of 3.4 meters. Precast lightweight concrete pieces made up the facade. AFE Tower was initially intended to hold 2,500 students. However, since the building's inception, a far higher number of students have resided there. Thus, frequent wait times of more than 15 minutes at the 7 elevators were anticipated. only 5 of the 7 lifts were operational, and they often became stuck. On the day after the explosion, the 50,000-ton tower in the center of the city drew over 10,000 spectators, and a wall up to 20 feet high encircled the scene to prevent any possible flying debris. Next in line is the demolition of the former house of Pablo Escobar. In order to modernize and lose its status as the world's drug capital, the Monaco building, which served as Pablo Escobar's former residence and stronghold, was destroyed in the city of Medellin, Colombia, back in February 2019. In addition to housing Pablo and his family, the building also once housed 2 swimming pools, a panic room, a vault, and 34 parking spaces for his cars. A crowd of 1,600 people watched as the building crumbled to the ground following an implosion that used 180 detonators and sent a dust cloud rising tens of meters into the air. A monument commemorating the victims of Pablo Escobar's reign of terror is planned to take the place of the current structure. Landmark Tower in Texas. Preston M. Guerin and Associates of Fort Worth designed the 30-story building, which was constructed twice. The Continental National Bank had its headquarters in the skyscraper. When the economy crashed in the early 1950s, construction was put on hold. It was initially intended to be a brick skyscraper with a 28-story height and a red granite foundation. It featured a brick front on the first story above the granite foundation and was only 4 floors tall when it first opened in 1952. The owner decided to complete the additional floors when the economy started to recover shortly after it had opened. But the design was expanded by 2 stories, and a digital clock was put to the top. The tower was Fort Worth's tallest building when it was ultimately finished in 1956, and it was also the first structure to feature an aluminum curtain wall. A 4-sided 32-foot-tall rotating digital clock was added in late 1957 and served as the building's crowning feature. When the tornado struck on March 28, 2000, the structure was severely damaged. The city of Fort Worth issued an order for the clock to be taken down from April 15 to April 21, 2000. The building's frame stood 380 feet tall. Over the years, the structure has had several owners, and plans were made to turn the tower into 35 condos and 140 opulent flats. In January 2004, XTO Energy bought the building after this project filed for bankruptcy. The corporation looked into every possibility of renovating, recladding, and constructing around the structure, but ultimately decided that demolishing it would be the wisest course of action. Building demolition operations started secretly in October 2005 after permits were covertly obtained. The building collapsed on March 18, 2006. Jail Hudson Department Store. The jail was dropped by Detroit Mayor Dennis Archer at 5:47 p.m. on October 24, 1998, with the press of a button. Hudson Department Store is remembered in history and record books, as well as on his city skyline. Only Macy's anchor store in New York had square footage than Hudson, the tallest department store in the nation. Through the 1970s, it controlled the city's retail sector before shutting down in 1983. The first stage of construction on the store began in 1911, and the final was completed in 1946. The complex had 25 above-grade retail levels, including mezzanines and 2 retail basements. The 2.2 million square foot structure has 2 additional basements, 6 higher levels in a tower, and mechanical support. The building has 33 floors in total. The Downtown Development Authority of Detroit hired a partnership between Detroit-based Walbridge Aldinger and Jenkins Construction in the autumn of 1997 to oversee the project. For the structure's asbestos removal, Walbridge Jenkins invited bids, and Loyalty Environmental of Chicago won the contract after 3 months of work. A very sturdy frame was produced through the installation of double column rows, internal brick shear walls, X-bracing, 70 elevators, and 10 stairwells during the structure's vertical construction stages. Columns with laminated steel flanges up to 7.25 inches thick and webs up to 6 inches thick challenged the capabilities of commercially available shaped charge technology. After analyzing each column to establish the actual weight it supported, CDI employed cutting torches to remove steel plates so that the remaining steel could be cut with smaller-shaped charges. In order to lower air overpressure that may shatter windows in neighboring houses, CDI sought to maintain the charges as low as feasible. It took 24 days for CDI's 12-person loading team to put 4,118 different charges in 1,100 different positions on columns on the complex's 9 floors. In CDI's implosion initiation system, more than 36,000 feet of detonating cord and 4,512 non-electric delay elements were installed. Some of these were used to create the 36 primary implosion sequences, and 216 additional micro-delays were used to reduce the detonation overpressure from the 2,728 pound of explosives that would be detonated during the demolition. When the smoke cleared, all that was left of the historic Detroit department store was a mound of rubble that was typically 35 feet tall but could reach heights of 60 feet. Villa Panamericana and Los Orquideas. The previous record for the most buildings to be demolished simultaneously with explosives held by CDI was set in 1996 in Pohang, South Korea, with the implosion of 12 public housing apartment buildings. Representatives from the Guinness Book of World Records were present to witness the implosion and confirmed that CDI had in fact surpassed its own world record. 7,242 holes were drilled in the supporting components of the 17 structures by CDI and Drillex, and they were then loaded by CDI UK Limited. In order to start CDI's precisely timed non-electric detonation sequence, 1,825 kilograms of explosives, 8,640 blasting caps, and 37,200 feet of detonating cable were used. As expected, CDI's design led to a gradual collapse that became worse as it progressed along the length of each building. The structures, which in some instances reached a length of 300 feet, fell swiftly, and CDI's preparation design produced excellent breakage, making it possible for ODDC to expedite the debris collection process in order to meet the site clearance timeline. The property owner, construction manager, project engineer, primary demolition contractor, and subcontractor all worked together to successfully complete this significant job. One of the most challenging expedited urban demolition projects ever will be completed safely and successfully because of the creativity and technological know-how are given by CDI, employing cutting-edge explosive demolition techniques, and ODDC's cutting-edge excavator attachments and concrete crushers. WECT Television Tower. The WECT Tower, a 609.6-meter tall tower used as an antenna for TV transmission, was used to transmit WECT Channel 6's analog television signal. It was constructed in 1969 and placed along NC 53 in Collie Township, Bladen County, North Carolina, USA, south of White Lake. WECT Tower was the highest building in North Carolina and the tallest building east of the Mississippi River when it was demolished. It was one of many masts that made up the 7th tallest man-made structure ever built. WECT switched to using its more recent digital transmitter in Winnebago on September 8, 2008, and stopped regularly transmitting its analog signal from the Bladen County Tower. After the switch, the analog signal stayed on the air until the end of September as a nightlight, broadcasting a how-to video on installing converters and UHF antennas. However, many people who could previously receive WECT's VHF analog signal would no longer be able to receive the station at all digitally, due to a shift to the UHF channel and a significantly smaller coverage area. Prior to making a 2011 donation of the tower and its surrounding 77-acre land to the Green Beret Foundation, WECT continued to use the old analog tower for electronic news gathering. The tower was destroyed for scrap on September 20, 2012. The foundation will get the money from the sale of the property and the tower scrap metal. And there you have it. Have you ever seen in person how these buildings are taken down? What do you think of our video? Let us know in the comment section. And please, don't forget to like this video, subscribe to our channel, and hit the notification bell for more interesting content. See you at the next one. Goodbye.